welcome to Musicology, everyone. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Rebecca Featherstone. I'm the founder and CEO of Musicology. I am actually a piano teacher out of Toronto and had this crazy opportunity back in the summer of 2020 to start getting a platform launched to support my fellow music teachers, and something that was interactive and that the kids could get engaged with, and of course with exceptional audio too. So I am not a developer. I am not a techie person, just so you know. I'm just like you guys, although I've had to become a bit more techie over the pandemic. So what is Musicology? Musicology is really a revolutionary product, and it's the very first video conferencing app with completely collaborative and interactive tools designed specifically for children in piano pedagogy. So what I mean by that is that all of the tools in Musicology are teacher controlled and student enabled. So your student doesn't have to sit there and just stare at you on the screen watching you perform. It has less exhaustion then for the teacher when they're teaching, and totally more engagement for the students. In fact, my 7-year-old son takes lessons on Musicology as well, and he is not a type of kid that concentrates. In fact, most of his report cards come back saying sometimes he listens, sometimes he participates, sometimes. But he does well with online lessons because he's got control over the screen when the teacher allows it, and it just creates that engagement for him. Plus, kids are just changing at a really rapid pace right now too.
Yep, they are.
Oh yeah. So Musicology supports all devices. We launched in April of 2021 for the iPad and iPhone first. And the reason for that was because it was more interactive for the kids, with touching the really young kids to be touching the screen all the time. And Apple is also very difficult to work with. So we thought, get that one out of the door first. And then we launched for the Chrome web browser. So anything else? Yeah, Jocelyn's so excited.
That was a really happy day for me. I was like, yes.
Yeah, so anybody can use that, even on an Android tablet device. Androids don't really have problems with using web apps. Apple does have problems with using web apps. So that is why we have, sorry, I'm just trying to let somebody in, but there we go. I got to clear that screen first. Apple doesn't like web apps. So if you try and use Chrome on an iOS device, it will not work. That's why we have the downloadable app.
Yes. It's very frustrating, but yes, work around it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, we offer all the tools that teachers need to teach online. We're bringing simplicity and engagement back to music lessons. And what I mean by that, you're probably wondering why the webcam and the microphone and the headphones are crossed out. That's not because you can't use them. It's because we know that your students are likely to not have webcams and Blue Yeti microphone and, you know, the most expensive sound of headphones. I can't talk today properly. I'm drinking my coffee. So you don't need all of these devices to have great audio and to have extremely low latency, but you can add them if you want. Most of the teachers, I think, do enjoy using these devices. I have webcams galore and microphones all over the place, but that's just me. So we have all the tools needed to engage kids 12 and under. That's actually my son there in the picture. He's featured in a lot of our demos. I paid him in candy.
I was gonna say.
Right?
Yeah, it's a good gig.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For us. We have tons of emojis. We change them every 3 months. They may seem silly to you know, some people, but they are totally relevant for the kids. They love them. And here we go again. I gotta admit somebody here. There's got to be a better way for this. I just can't figure it out. So yeah, anyways, the emojis are just a really, really great touch for students, young and old. And we do have, you see up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a lock button as well, so that you can lock your students out, because the first 3 lessons on musicology can be very, very exciting for them.
And they also will go into the room before the lesson, like when you changed the emojis last week or 2 weeks ago, and the first thing they said was, "It's new emojis!" And then we had to spend like 5 minutes with them showing me.
Yeah.
Like, yes, sweetie, I know. I've seen, yeah, okay, yeah. Show them all to me. So
My student the other day, he was just being a typical 8-year-old boy, and he kept scribbling all over the place. And then I locked him out, and then he was like, la, 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 and spinning on his chair. And I'm like, stop. And started like randomly pressing emojis to get his attention. And I'm like, we need a stop sign emoji. That's what we need.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you never take away the rainbow poop emoji.
No,
that's the one constant, because everybody loves the rainbow poop emoji.
That was specifically designed by our developers.
They love it. So
musicology, although it is designed for young children, it is also incredibly useful for older students as well. I have teenage students that I teach too. We have users that have adult students. You don't have to use the emojis. Yep, Jocelyn does. Although the adult students do like the emojis.
They do. Everybody loves the emojis. It is definitely not just for kids.
So we have high quality full duplex audio and video. And what that means is that I like to call it layered sound, where you can speak over top of your student playing. So, you know, when they get to bar 2 and they forgot to play that F sharp, you can say, hey, F sharp there, you missed it. And then they'll hear you and they can correct themselves. So it resembles more of an in-person lesson. Whereas on a lot of traditional software, you have to wait until the end when they're done playing. We also don't go through a server. So any platform that offers group rooms goes through a server. So that means that the audio is going from me to the server to my student, and it's going to have a lot more latency. There's going to be problems connecting there. And 1 second. And so we have designed musicology so that it can be I don't know why my mouse doesn't work when I'm screen sharing this in full screen. There we go. We've designed musicology to be one-on-one, and that's because that is the absolutely lowest latency that you can get for a video conference platform. It is very similar to a phone call. You don't have to scream and shout. We do have a whiteboard for theory practice. I often have my students upload their practice exams to the whiteboard, and I'll mark them during the week. And then we'll go through it together and work out their mistakes. There's a MIDI keyboard to show examples, which is incredibly useful when you're teaching technique or inversions. Screen share we have, it's a basic Google Chrome screen share. You can share YouTube clips, your iPad, you can share your audio. So lots of tools there. And in the future, we will most certainly be doing lots of upgrades. I know that some teachers have asked for remote control features as well, like Zoom has. So we will be adding in all sorts of things down the road. So our top features are the whiteboard, the file upload, the grand staff, the virtual keyboard, and a screen share. And I will show you all of these. But first, going to show you this short little video here. So this is demonstrating our iPad app, and I'm going to screen share the web app after this so you can see the difference, because Apple has differences. So that's our virtual keyboard there. They all communicate with each other though, so you can teach on the web app with your students on the iPad. We have a whiteboard. It's completely collaborative. If you're on an iPad, you get that really neat Apple Pencil kit, which is amazing because you can actually blend colors on the screen. So this is just demonstrating the collaborative use. So there's no extra settings. You don't have to go in and do anything. This is a stamp of the grand staff on the whiteboard. if you want to demonstrate some writing there quickly or have some impromptu theory exams to do. This is our web browser on the iPad because iPads don't allow screen share. So we have, if you're iPad to iPad, you can share by going through a browser to share your pages. You can take screenshots and then load it up to the whiteboard, and then you can draw on it together. And the emojis. So here's the file upload on the iPad. It's basically a screenshot, and you go into your Photos app,
Music.
name the file, and it saves to the student's room all the time. So you don't have to keep loading it every single time. You have your own little personal library per student or per family. And this is my favorite feature. I use this all the time. So you can drag those notes around collaboratively, the teacher and the student. You can just line them up at the top, ask your student to build a scale or teach skips and steps. It's very, very interactive. And the kids just get it right away too. The keyboard too is polyphonic up to 10 sounds, which is a lot of fun. So security is always a big question when we have kids involved. We are COPPA compliant, which means that we do not take any information from children. They don't have to register. They don't have to sign up for anything. The teacher signs up, and then we are GDPR compliant in that we don't take the teacher's information and sell it to advertisers. So that's partly why we're not a free platform. And oh, there, I did it quickly this time. And yeah, security was a top priority for me. So that what had to be worked in there. I hate when I sign up for something and they take my email address, and all of a sudden I'm on everybody's mailing list. I have to unsubscribe all week to everybody. So that's something that we don't do. You can put your email address in and opt in, but we just use that for our newsletter that we send out on Mondays, which are usually full of tech tips and tutorials and stuff like that. So there is a 30-day free trial. You can register at musicology.ca, or you can just go straight to the portal.musicology.ca. That's the teacher portal. And you can also cancel anytime. So that was something else that I wanted to put in there, you know, against all of my advisors' advice. No, make it hard for them to cancel. But I hate that when I sign up for a trial and I cannot figure out how to cancel it after, like, not because it's bad or anything, it's just might not be working for me, or I might not need it anymore. So it's very easy to go and do that on Musicology. You will lose all of your information. So if you do want to sign up again, then you have to rebuild all of your rooms and load all your files. But we're hoping that you don't cancel. So now I'm going to screen share the app here. First of all, before I do that, I'm just going to show you really quickly. This is our YouTube channel. So it's just, you can just search Musicology App. And if you go to playlists, we have tons of playlists here, organized iOS features, demo videos, web app features, instrumental audio tests, all sorts of things. Or you can just click on videos and go through there. So as you can see, we have quite a few. I try and do like 1 or 2 a week. And yeah, we'll hopefully be building more there. This is a really good one, the Tech Talk with Paul. I love this one. He's an IT guy that we did a webinar with. And he's had experience in the industry for over 40 years. So he answers everybody's questions. It was so funny because I just unleashed all the piano teachers on him. But he was a great guy. His wife is an online piano teacher. Then we have our website here, musicology.ca. So under blog, these are our weekly blogs that get sent out. So I encourage you to join the newsletter. Again, we don't spam you or anything. This is our last blog last week, all about audio settings for Windows and Apple. And then I try to reword it so that it's easy to understand. And then we do, you know, certain features, log out and end call, screen recording on your devices, stuff like that. This is a really good one for first-time users getting started with musicology. So we have a little video on how you register, how to create student rooms. This is a great startup tutorial for the web app, which is pretty much the same thing I'm going to be doing today with you. And then this is just a little intro to the features of the iOS app. And then down here is a template letter that you can take and copy and paste and send it to your students for when you're ready to get started with them. And all they need is a code that you create in the teacher portal. You send them that code. They go to either the iOS app or the web app and they press I'm a student and punch in their code, and the code never changes. It's the same all the time. So you can keep it super simple too, you know, like their pet's name or something like that if they're really young. And then this is another good one too to send to students. So just a tech checklist. I always have my students restart their whatever they're using before the lesson. And it just helps clear data and make everything perform a lot quicker. For some reason, they always come with their iPad or laptop not charged and are scrambling with the wires at the last minute. And never a pencil. We're getting there anyways. They upgraded their internet over the pandemic, so that was good. And then over here is the teacher portal. So this is where you would register. You just click the register button. If you ever forget what the address is for the web app, which is app.musicology.ca, you can always go back to the teacher portal and launch Musicology. And if you ever forget where both of those are, you can just go to our website and then click on log and register at the top. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to log in. And so now I didn't sign up with my, I didn't create an email and a passcode. There's two different ways you can sign up. I signed up with Continue with Apple, and that's just easier for me. I don't like remembering passcodes. So whatever way you signed up, that's the way that you want to keep signing in. It's the same as, it's just an authenticator. It's like signing in with Google, signing in with Facebook. So I'm just pressing that, going through the many Apple security features. And so now you won't have this administration sign. This is just for, I can look up teachers' rooms and stuff like that if anybody ever forgets something. So you'll have the home button, the rooms, and log out. So the first thing you do is you go to rooms and then you build a student room. So it's very easy. Let's build Jocelyn a room, and then her room name. You don't even have to fill in the student's name and room name. It's more the code that's important, but for your own organizational purposes, you might want to. Jocelyn's music room. And then I'm going to make her room code. You have 3 initials in your name, JRD. So I'm going to do JRD and then RF for mine. And you can do whatever you want. It's case sensitive. I just like to keep it easy. So now we have Jocelyn's room right here. So I can go and click on Jocelyn's room now. I can click upload file, or I can just drag it over from my finder here. And it's very easy to do. And then that'll appear in your student's room when you're on the app. So I can show you what that looks like too. In another room. So here's a demo room here, and it's just what all their files look like. I like to name my files so I know what they are and they're easy to find, so that it's not just like IMG. And then if you want to delete them, you can delete them just by doing that, and then it's not there anymore. If you need to delete the room, you can remove the room. So it's all pretty self-explanatory. And then, so here we are at app.musicology.ca. So this is our web app. When your student signs in, they just press I'm a student and enter their code. So now I'm signing in as a teacher. And there I am there on the corner. I'm just kind of covered up by all of your pictures. I got to move the Zoom thing around. There we go. Okay. So up here, these are your group rooms, and these are where all of your students are. Sorry, not group rooms, or your student rooms. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to log into Spencer's room here. So now it says waiting for student in room 7432. And then on the student's end, it'll say waiting for teacher in room 7432. And now that I've done that and I've connected to the call, if I click down here in the left-hand corner, the whiteboard is now activated. When I'm not in the call, it's not activated because the whiteboard is connected to each student's room. Otherwise, your files are going to be all over the place. So I'm going to go back and connect to the room. And it's super easy to go and do back-to-back lessons as well. All you do is just end the call and then click on the next room. So you don't have to like log out and log back in and all that stuff. Up here in the right-hand corner is normally there's a lock sign right here, but my student is not connected yet, so you can't see the lock sign on my end. But when you're teaching, the lock sign will be there, and then you can lock them out from pressing this great button here. And maybe that wasn't such a good one. Let's do a happy one. There we go. All of these emojis, we did a little poll on our Facebook group, Team Musicology, and this is what people had asked for. I like this one. This is the question mark. This is just a little pop-up that comes up at the beginning. It'll take you to our FAQ page on our website. Usually has most of the answers that you're looking for. This one takes you to how to build student rooms. This one tells you what devices, and then our YouTube channel. And then our Facebook group. Over here is our very minimal settings menu. So we have your basic audio input, audio output, and your video input. And then you can look for new devices too. If you ever have audio issues on anything, not just Musicology, but like Skype, Zoom, anything, it's always a good idea to just restart your computer. And that usually solves most issues. Then you have your basic features, your mute your microphone, disable camera. This here is our toggle video options. And this one right here is for screen share. So I would screen share down here by pressing the globe icon. Now I can't do it now because I'm not connected to a room, but it's a basic Google Chrome screen share. You can Google that and see what it looks like. And then if I want to see my students' video following me around the screen, see their reaction, I just press this little pop-out remote user video and their video will float around. This one here that looks like a television will get rid of my camera, my local video at the bottom. If you don't want to look at yourself, I find it distracting sometimes. I'm always fixing my hair. I find it distracting right now, seeing myself talking. This is our camera switch button, so you can switch to your overhead camera if you want. It's compatible with OBS and ManyCam. You can hook up as many cameras as you want. They have these great USB hubs that you can get where you can plug in all sorts of things to your computer. So basically whatever your OS will accept, then Musicology will accept. And then this one here will just swap your local and remote. So your remote video is your student's video. Your local video is your video. So that will just make yours become big on the screen here, and then theirs will become small if you're holding something up maybe. And this, of course, too, you can move your video around if it's in the way. You can switch the orientation, and then this button here will snap it back into place. And then this is your full screen mode. So over to the whiteboard. Oh, I don't know what that is. Anybody like doing Rainbow? This is a great book by Wonder Keys, Andrea Dow, and she is fantastic. And this book is called, I think I have it up here. I was teaching it last night. Oh, you can't see it because I've got this thing in my background, but it's called the Rainbow Salad book. It's Rainbow Salad Songbook, and it's just full of a lot of fun. So this is my student here, this yellow stuff, because that's what 8-year-olds like to do. And so now I can go and get rid of that. And then if I click over here on this 3-dot icon, these are all of the things that I have loaded before. So there is tons of stuff here. So I'll just load up this image here. There's this little triangle in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to resize it to how I like it, and then add it to the background. And maybe this toolbar is in the way, so I can minimize that by pressing that darker shaded bar there. Now, these are 2 pictures that I had taken. And then I had dragged it over to the whiteboard, positioned them both on the screen, and then saved them as one image. So this is the save the file.
Oh, okay.
Someone had a breakthrough. I have to give you this emoji. Yeah, so that's how you can save that. What I'll often do too is I will mark up their page in red, and then last week we were working on like articulation, so I was going through her piece and just you know, marking all the rests and putting little check marks at the end, and then I can save that as another image, like sonatina D major with annotations or something, and then she can refer to them outside of the lesson as well. And then you have your basic functions like your eraser. This is a really fun one, the selector. If you're playing a game with somebody, you can move that around and then drop it. And then you have your little square. My mouse isn't working. My mouse is acting funny today. Oh, there we are. Now it is. So you can create, you can just outline passages and circle things. Or maybe I'm not working well today. That's probably it. It's Friday. Oh my God. We've had 2 snow days here in Ontario. So my kids are at home and I'm working, and it's a lot of iPad use. Now, if I want to get rid of these annotations here, I will go and press this clipboard button. And then if I want to get rid of the file completely, I can press the trash can, and then it's always there in the menu for future use. So that's the whiteboard. Here's the image of the grand staff. So again, you can resize it however you want, and then add it to the background. And then down here beside the whiteboard is this is the MIDI keyboard. And you can go and change the colors of the keys as well. I have a student that always finds the perfect shade of turquoise. And it's MIDI compatible. So it's a really, really great feature, and it's super easy to use. You don't have to go in and, you know, download anything. It's literally just a printer cable that you attach. If you don't have a MIDI cable kicking around, attach to the back of your electronic piano, keyboard, whatever, and plug it into the back of your computer via the USB. And you, even if you don't have an electronic piano and you like teaching on your acoustic, which is obviously better, you can just, you know, buy any like little cheap toy one really for demonstration purposes too. It's a lot of fun. And your students can hook theirs up as well. So it's just a good way to kind of view their hands. You can take the labels on and off by pressing this one. You can change the octaves there too. You can do sharps and flats. You can switch to rainbow keys, and you can control the volume. And what else here? This. Okay, so over here on the right-hand side, there is a little 8th note. And this is our notes menu. You can pop up all the notes that you want on the screen, and both you and your student can drag them around together. I have this one student that likes to go in and every time he learns a new song, he just opens up the grand staff and starts copying the first few bars of the music in there. And then I help him like kind of position things better. And it's a lot of fun to use. It just kind of, you know, breaks down that barrier between the screen. And over here, this is where your MIDI input is. So you have different sounds. All sorts of different things. Now, if you want to delete just one note, you would select it so it's highlighted and then press this minus sign in the blue icon. If you want to get rid of everything there, press the trash can. And then up here, this will mute the on-screen keyboard if you just want the sound of your piano playing. A lot of people will turn their piano sound down and then they'll just leave the on-screen on. And sometimes you'll hear the students on-screen piano playing, but it's like there's always latency on a platform, right? So it'll kind of come after you strike the keys on your end. But it's a lot of ways that I think a lot of singers like to get through some of the latency a bit is by playing the MIDI connection there. Then we have a metronome too. So this is just our regular one. I'm not connected here. Let me turn that off so you can hear it. So it's a nice click. And a cat and a dog, because that's how we roll. Now the metronome sound, the audio is pushed from the student side to the teachers so that you never hear them skipping a beat. And you're going to be hearing exactly what they're clapping with. Rather than the metronome sound coming from you to the student, and then it's always going to go through that latency barrier. But again, the latency is very, very low on Musicology, and especially if like they're on a fiber network, like you guys will be flying. And then if you're a guitar teacher, this is just the same thing as the grand staff, and then you can switch it to ukulele as well. So with that being said now, what I'm going to do is connect over here and go back to my presentation, and I'm going to introduce you to Jocelyn. So I am so very excited to talk to Jocelyn today.
Yay.
Welcome. Yeah. So Jocelyn is a piano and voice teacher out.
Only voice. I don't teach piano.
Only voice. I thought you taught some basic piano. Okay. I stand corrected.
Yeah, no, I would never claim such a thing. No, I have way too much respect for that. I do play piano, yes, and I can rudimentarily accompany people, but like, I would never call myself a pianist or an accompanist. I have some skills. I mean, piano is my first instrument, like a lot of people, but yeah, no, definitely don't teach piano, just voice.
So Jocelyn is an entrepreneur too, just like all of us. And she has actually she's composed a whole series of books as well, which we're going to go through a little bit later. Some oral skills books, which I'm very excited to talk about. So Jocelyn's been using Musicology since the very, very beginning. Were you part of our alpha team as well?
Sadly, no, because who doesn't want to be part of something called the alpha team? I'm super bummed that I was not a part of that, but I came in like June of last year, June, July. I was in before the Chrome app was, and I was like, when's the Chrome app coming out? When's the Chrome app coming out? And you were like, oh my God, stop emailing me. You're obsessed with me. Oh my God. But yes, no, I've been here since like June-ish.
Yeah. And so she started teaching on the iPad and was just like blown away at the beginning with the audio and so supportive. And how long have you been teaching voice for, Jocelyn?
I've been teaching voice since 2007, but online since 2020. Oh, wow. So never taught online. I will say that when I was in college, which was in the early 2000s, you know, I would sometimes do phone lessons.
Would you?
Like if I couldn't, because I was at school in Philadelphia and my teacher lived in New York. So there were times when I needed like to check in about something, and very occasionally we would do phone lessons. which were quite effective for what they were.
Yeah.
You know, just to get some ears on my voice or whatever. But, you know, and you know what, to be honest, when I moved from Montreal in 2015 to Vancouver, I transitioned some of my students to other teachers in Montreal, but we did a couple of months of lessons while I was on the West Coast. And I did use Skype and FaceTime for those things.
Wow.
But it was very much like I want to hold your hand until we get through like finding a new teacher for you. But it was never something, you know, it was always like in person is always best, which, you know, sure, yes, I enjoy teaching in person. But this pandemic has given me an opportunity to also realize how much I love teaching online.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're totally online now.
Yes, I am 100% online. Mostly, I mean, it's still mostly due to COVID, but also because I recognized, because I was like, well, is this an option? Because I have to be able to go somewhere or students have to be able to come to me. Now I just get to be in my studio that is set up exactly the way that I want it with all of my materials and my library. And like, I used to have like a giant rolling suitcase and like threw my back out and like, you know, like all of this stuff because I was trying to take my mobile studio with me everywhere. So I made the call last June before I discovered musicology to be like, you know what, I'm going to make the call. We're going to be online through the end of August of this year, at least, due to COVID, because I also wanted to maintain stability and like regulation.
Yeah.
You know, families don't need to have, this is all, and this is just my personal opinion and experience, but this is what I chose to do. People don't need to have their schedules changed in the middle of the year. If kids have schedules, it's because they have other activities that are slotted in around those things. It's very, very hard for people to switch midstream. And I also don't want to switch. I want to know what my schedule is. So I made the call, and that's actually why I started to reach out and look around, because I was like, if I'm going to offer an online platform, I need to up my game. I need to be able to like up the connection. I need to be able to up the experience, because I have maintained from the beginning that online lessons are not less than in-person lessons. They're just different.
Yeah. And it's hard to teach voice as well on some of the traditional platforms because they just cut it out, don't they?
Yeah, it's really, the clipping is a really big thing. And I know there are lots of people here who are from the teacher forums on Facebook. I also, and whoever is watching this on the replay, you know, the discussions about what kind of settings do we use on Zoom? What kind of peripherals do we need? What kind of microphones do you use? What kind of headphones do you use? All of these kinds of things that we were getting in place in 2020. And I'm very proud of all of us. We really rolled with it and we figured it out.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of my students invested, which was great. But for those of them that could not afford to, for those of them that were not interested, you just get used to a certain amount of, obviously the latency is like bad to atrocious depending on internet speeds, and like if the moon is in the 7th house of Aquarius or whatever, you know, because you can never tell because the internet is just wackadoodle. But between that and the lack of peripherals, because I was like, well, I'll buy a microphone, which did improve my, you know, audio, but it's like, it's not helping me with my opera singer in Beijing who needs to perform something for me, and literally like mid staff right in the passaggio, I can't hear her anymore.
Yeah. So
even if she has a microphone.
You actually have an opera singer in Beijing that you teach?
I have students all over the world now.
So crazy. And is she on musicology too?
We are on musicology.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And so her vocal range doesn't cut out then. She can sing her powerful lines.
I mean, this is the thing. The number one thing for me is lag and the clipping.
Yeah.
They don't need a microphone. If they have one as an opera singer, some of them like to use it. I will say I do notice a slight improvement in just the quality of the audio if it's going through like an external Yeti mic or a good mic.
Oh, for sure.
Because that's what a mic's job is, right?
Well, yeah,
But,
I mean, if they're singing at such a serious level too.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I will absolutely, and I mean, I have my mic plugged in that I use, you know, when I'm teaching on my computer, but I don't have to have it.
Yeah.
And I can hear them sing top to bottom with no clipping, no issues, and I can play with them.
Yeah.
Which is like, for an unaccompanied instrument, for pitch matching issues, for learning songs, and for some of my students who potentially have neurodivergency issues or rhythmic challenges, it can be really, really challenging to do everything in a call and response way.
Yeah.
I mean, call and response is great. I certainly adapted, and having tracks on their end and doing all of that stuff has been very useful. But the day that I was able to actually play a Forêt song with one of my students who had not been able to get the rhythm the entire time we'd been working on it, and we played together, like, I'm gonna cry now. Like, I literally cried. It was like this moment of actually being in the same space and time as them, which is just not possible on Zoom. Like, God bless Zoom. Thank God we had something to get us started.
Yeah.
But I actually had an experience where I've been on Musicology now. My entire studio is on Musicology. We've been on Musicology since September. Like, adults and kids alike, everybody loves the platform. I use the features more with the kids than I do with the adults, but I still use the features with the adults as well. And I had to do a masterclass with my upper level students on Monday. And of course we had to be on Zoom. And I completely forgot. I just forgot about it because I'm hardly ever on Zoom anymore in that capacity. And my poor first singer, I was like, oh God, we should have talked about audio settings, and I should have reminded you to bring the mic and all of this stuff. And it was just like, it's just the clipping. I forgot how unbearably annoying it is, because it doesn't happen on Musicology. Now, obviously, and Rebecca, you talk about this all the time, the internet is the internet. Things are, sometimes there are crashes, sometimes there are glitches, sometimes I have a day where there is a lag that is more noticeable, you know, than other days. But the majority of the time, this can be solved by, I mean, I go out of my room and come back into my room all the time.
Exactly.
I will, you know, refresh my web browser in between students just to reset the data packets. You know, I get them to come in and out sometimes to reset those things.
I love that you're saying reset the data packets. Did you learn that from me?
Yes, I did.
I learned that from our developer. So they're always talking about these packets. Everything's packets being sent, and like, imagine an envelope in the mail being sent to the next person. So I've been passing that information on to you guys. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm like, so, you know, if things are laggy or if it's not working, let's go out. We'll shut everything down. I'll clear my cache or whatever. Restart your computer as a last resort. But we can usually get it back to a semblance.
Yeah.
And I use this Chrome to Chrome, which is my ideal for most of my students, because I like being able to share directly like you can on Zoom. But I also have web app to iOS for my little ones because they have their iPads or their iPhones. And then I also have a student who is on her Android phone, and it works extremely well. She just comes into the web app on her Chrome browser on her phone. And this particular student is neurodivergent. And when we were initially starting the pandemic, she had to stop her lessons because the delay and the lag on Zoom was just, and all of the peripherals and trying to figure out how to do tracks and all of this stuff, it was too much for her. Like, she couldn't like be in the process of that, which was completely understandable. And when I reached out to her and said, hey, like, I have this new platform and I'd really like to try it with you, it was a completely different experience for her, because now I can play with her. I can play her piano accompaniment. I can play her lines. She can sing with me. We can hear each other. And she just uses her phone.
That's amazing.
So it really is.
Is she wearing headphones on her phone? Oh, wow.
No, she just is literally like her phone, and that's it. And it's
so simple.
Yeah, I mean, I use headphones. I use wired headphones because I like to be a little bit closer to the sound.
Yeah.
I don't like my speakers on my computer, but that's a personal choice. I wouldn't, I don't have to use them to cut out on echo or cut out on latency or anything like that.
That's the thing. Yeah, because most of our students aren't doing that. Like most of the time, I mean, for me with my students, they're just coming in from school or they're coming in from outside. And a lot of the times too, like their older siblings with them and not their parents. So there's like nobody home to help them really with tech issues, but they can just go on Musicology by themselves. And they can,
and they'll hang out. They hang out in their room. They play with the emojis. They do the whiteboard stuff. Like they're all about it.
I get sent so many pictures of whiteboard drawings from teachers. They're like, my student wanted me to send this to you. They don't even know me, but that's so sweet.
I know, they're so cute. So yes, that has been my journey from other online platforms and feeling like I can now offer an experience that is not that I'm trying to always emulate an in-person experience, because that is not possible just with the way that things are, but it is the closest that I found. And it is something that has all of these other tools built in that are for music. Like it's sort of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, it really elevates your studio. I mean, it's the same thing as like what kind of piano that we choose to teach on too, right? Like we're not going to go out and get like a Craigslist piano that's been rotting in the bottom of some church for 20 years. And maybe you want to try and refurbish it, but it's going to be a lot of work. And, we invest in like good instruments, and we should always be investing in good tools, right? So
absolutely. So that was my journey to musicology.
No, that's great. I think that probably helped explain it to a lot of people. And just for the record, Jocelyn doesn't work for me or anything.
No, I don't. Just love the product.
Yeah. She's just a very supportive teacher and thankful. And I'm so thankful for you too. It's so great meeting so many people over the world. So let's talk about your book.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I love supporting other teachers' like entrepreneurial journeys too. And I just think it's great what you've done, because I know that the vocal community also doesn't have a ton of support, right? Like piano pedagogy, you can find resources all over the place, but vocal's a little bit more niche than piano. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. Very true.
So go ahead and chat while I'm pulling this up, and I'm going to show you guys.
We made a little video.
So Jocelyn and I got together yesterday and made a video, but first, this is just an example. If you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Okay, so essentially what I have done, to those of you who are like RCM teachers who teach like the voice RCM curriculum, and also for people who just are interested in ear training resources that are specifically for singers, because as Rebecca has said, and as all of you know, you can find ear training for piano and other instruments like for days and days and days. There is no shortage of sight reading for piano or, ear training, Suzuki methods, all of these kinds of things. And so for voice, what I found was that I started to teach a lot of students of varying levels for their RCM practical exams. And I could not find, even from RCM themselves, I could not find an ear training resource that covered the requirements in the syllabus in a leveled out way. So in a way that would progress from levels 1 all the way through level 10. And I actually called RCM and was like, hey, am I just not looking in the right place? Because I feel like this is a thing. Like, that I can't use like 2-part sight reading, or, some things have to be able to be sung, like actually sung. I can't give them, I can't give my singers things that are up in like super high ledger lines or super low ledger lines. Like I need things that they can actually emulate. And this was actually before they started to pull everything into line with the piano syllabus, because now the keyboard piano syllabus requirements, I mean, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that they're pulling all of the practical ear training resources in line with the keyboard. So what you have to do for piano exams for ear training is basically what you have to do for all instruments.
Well, I have a question actually, Jocelyn. If you don't mind
Yeah,
interrupting.
not at all.
For piano, because I'm not a voice teacher and I've never taken voice lessons.
Thanks, Norma. Yeah.
But for piano, I use the 4-star books for sight reading and ear training.
Yeah.
And now, do they have that for the vocal section when you're preparing for an exam? Because they have the repertoire and the studies, right?
Yeah,
but then
they have the repertoire and the vocalises.
Oh, okay. So then they don't, this is basically what the 4-star is, but it's for voice. Why don't they have that? But amazing that you did that, actually.
I honestly was like, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to do stuff if I will happily pay for a resource if somebody has already done this.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we have this thing that's like a sight reading course that's sort of for singers. And I'm like, okay, but does it correspond with like the levels of the things? They were like, sort of. And I was like, well, then that's not really useful to me. I don't, I want to be sure that, as I'm sure everybody does, wants to be sure that I'm actually like giving my students the information that they need in order to be successful, right? And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just gonna do it myself then, because I am the kind, I will also, like, full disclosure, I am the kind of teacher who needs to see things to do them. My ear is fine, but I am not a teacher who teaches by ear. I do not want to have to sit in a lesson and try to figure out what the dominant 7th of G major is. I want to just be able to look at it and I want to be able to play it. And another big bugaboo for me is chord progressions, because again, I am not a pianist. And my keyboard harmony class in college was not awesome, nor did anybody explain to me why I would have to take this. And so I have a real hard time with like chord progressions and all of these kinds of things. And again, please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I could not find actual written out chord progressions for the chord progressions that are required for RCM in particular. Because I think it's one of those things that everyone's like, well, you just do it. You just know what 1-4-1 is, or 1-5-1 is, or 1-5-6, or 1-4-6, or whatever. And I didn't know. I'm fully upfront about that. I didn't know. And so I built this resource for myself, which was essentially cut, and I literally like wrote things and then cut and pasted them and like put them in a binder.
Wow.
And I taught this class because it enabled me to go from like, level to level to level, because I had a whole bunch of different students of different ages and ranges. And I did this class with them for exam prep. And then I was able to also use those to do mock exams. I created like a whole scoring sheet and I had them run through their exam. They did all of their repertoire. And then I did random like ear training and sight singing like tests with them. And every single student in that class received first class honors or higher.
Wow.
And that was from like grade 2 all the way up to grade 9. And I thought, okay, well, at the very least, I've created this thing so that now when I need to drill my students on this, I don't have to sit there and make it up in my head. I can actually like just be like, oh, today we're going to drill chord progressions. And then I can just sit there and play it. Or here we're going to do singbacks. Okay, so I'm going to do all these singbacks and we're just going to go through them. We're going to play them out and I don't have to make them up. I don't have to worry that the thing that I made up with the rhythm, is that actually what they sang back to me? Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. The syllabus itself is very helpful in laying out what is required, but they only give you 2 examples. So you could use those examples, and I know lots of teachers will extrapolate off of those, and that's awesome. But my students would either memorize them after a couple of weeks because, it's repetition, right? Yeah. Or I would run out of like things to make up, or I would start to get like flustered and like not be able to figure out like, oh, well, what are we doing today? And then we would just like do something else. Yeah. So this, for me, frees up a ton of bandwidth in my lessons because I'm like, I don't have to think about it. Today we're going to do singbacks. I'll pick 2 or 3. now we're going to do chord progressions. We bang through some chord progressions, we do some chords, and then it's done. So I can do ear training.
Piano too. Yeah. And then I check them off as we go.
Exactly. And I make a note of like what we covered and how it went, and we can do feedback and all of those kinds of things. So when the syllabus changed in 2019, the vocal practical syllabus changed. And so I updated all of my materials, and then people started asking me about them. And I was like, there are other people who want, like, really? Because I just thought I was like an outlier who's like, can't, you know, doesn't want to make up chords in my head. Like, I don't know. Apparently there's a whole swathe of people who also want to use this. And so of course, during the pandemic, we all pivoted and like did a bunch of different things. And I thought, well, I wonder what it would take to actually put something like this together and take what I've done and like actually put it into Finale or Sibelius and like print it out and like figure all that out. And so that was something I worked on for most of 2020.
Wow. And then these are all digital downloads too, right?
Yes, they're all PDFs. Yes, they're all digital PDFs. You can do them on your tablet. You can look at them on your phone. You are also more than welcome to print them out if you prefer a printed resource. I just wanted everybody to have options. I absolutely love this little slideshow, by the way.
Yeah.
Super cute. Love it. And I love that you made it a book. That's adorable. Yeah. So I basically, you know, which is funny from an entrepreneurial standpoint as well, because all of a sudden I had to take this, thing.
Hello.
Whew, that do photo shoots apparently as well. I had to take this thing that, you know, I created, and then I had to like make it disseminatable. I had to find a way to like get it to people. And it also went through a lot of iterations. I mean, it started off as a very like specifically RCM based tool. And over time, also looking at things like copyright and accessibility and different ways that a resource like this could be used, I kept a lot of the levels and a lot of the requirements. So you absolutely can use it for RCM. You can also use it, you know, keeping track through your own syllabus for things like ABRSM, Trinity College, Canada Conservatory. Any examining board is going to have similar ear training examples, but you can also use it with your students for like choir auditions. Or if you are really interested in helping your singers become well-rounded musicians, they have an opportunity to do ear training in a way that is specific for the things that singers actually need to be able to do, which is not the same.
Yeah.
Like I used to have a lot of resistance to things like chord progressions or things of that nature, because, you know, I mean, I know all my voice teachers feel me. Like I've never had a conductor be like, so I'm just going to stop this rehearsal for a second. What is the cadence at the end of that movement to their soloists? I mean, singers don't have to identify things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to be well-rounded musicians. You want to understand what cadences are. You want to be able to hear them and identify them and all of that kind of stuff. But it's not the same thing as an instrumentalist maybe needs to be able to practically apply those things. Yeah. So this is an opportunity to help your students in a very measured, very cumulative way, because each level builds on the next level. And at the same time, as an added bonus, it covers practical exam levels. So
that's amazing. Well, Jocelyn actually taught me a little lesson. So you hear just at the end before we start. She is a famous voice teacher from British Columbia, and she is going to teach me some crazy ear training voice exercises that she invented herself.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Yes, these are some sample exercises from the digital download resource that I've created for singing teachers called the Singers Aural Skills Drill Book for Teachers. So Rebecca has very graciously agreed to be my guinea pig today. So
I'm not a singer.
This actually works, and she's not a singer, so full disclosure, but that's totally okay. She's an amazing musician and teacher herself. So the first thing we're going to show you today are what an example of a level 1 clapback would be in the digital download. So what I'm going to do, Rebecca, is I am going to play this on my piano twice, and then you are going to clap the rhythm that you hear back to me.
Okay.
Okay, so this is for level 1. We are in 3/4. Okay.
Okay.
So here is our example. I'll play it one more time.
Oh, yeah.
Emoji. In fact, I'm gonna do.
Give me an
a
emoji.
Screen recording, and that was amazing. Love it. Okay, so now we're gonna try a grade 2 sing back. So this is a very similar idea to clap back, but what's gonna happen is the rhythm is gonna get a little bit more easy, a little simpler. And we're going to add melody. So now what we're testing in the student is, can they retain the rhythm and the melody and sing it back on pitch? Okay, so this may seem a little bit more simplistic, but we're now doing 2 skills as opposed to just 1.
So I'm singing back the melody to you.
Yes.
With the rhythm and the melody. And what sound am I saying? Just like la la or?
Whatever you like. Any kind of vowel is fine. La, la, la is fine. So what I'm going to
Okay.
do is I'm going to give you the tonic chord and your starting note. And then I'm going to play this little melody. It's very short. It's like 2 bars long. Little melody twice.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm ready.
All right. So here we are. We're in, which one am I going to do? We're in G major. Okay? So here's our chord. All right. And here is your starting note. And I'm going to play this melody twice for you. One more time.
Okay. La 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 la.
Amazing! See? Now, this is what I love in musicology, y'all. Also, amazing emojis and celebrate these things. That was really good. And Rebecca's not a singer, so we're like...
That was pretty high. I was a little scared.
I know. I did think about it, and I was like...
I'm more of an A major girl. Lower.
That's fair. But you did amazing.
Thank
That was
you.
great. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to just show as an example today is an example of chord progressions. And this one is very near and dear to my heart, because as a singer, we don't learn necessarily about keyboard progression or keyboard harmony the way that a pianist does. And so we are listening for things that we don't necessarily have a picture of in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I find that it is extremely important for singers to have these kinds of things. But as a teacher, these are not written down anywhere because someone assumed that we're just supposed to know. And I don't know about the singers out there or the singing teachers out there, but I don't know. And I don't want to waste any time trying to figure it out in a lesson. So that is why in grades 5 through 10 of this resource, you have a ton of different actual playable chord progression examples. These are all according to the RCM syllabus requirements, but they are obviously applicable to whatever student is in this grade. It's a great skill for them to have. So today I'm going to ask you, Rebecca, if you can tell me if the chord progression I'm going to play is 1-4-1 or 1-5-1.
All right, I'm ready.
It's going to be a major key, so no stress, okay? All right, so here we go. I'm going to play it twice.
Okay.
Okay. Even though I know you can probably identify it.
I'm getting distracted because there's like a stink bug in my light buzzing.
Keeping it real, y'all.
I'm going to go with 1-5-1.
Yes.
Yes.
Amazing. And there we go.
Yay!
Love it. So these examples just progress according, like sort of cumulatively. So we're building on the skills as we go through the grades, which is why a lot of people enjoy RCM curriculum, other exam curriculum. But these are fantastic examples and resources for if you have students who are auditioning for choirs, if you have students that are just wanting to build general ear training skills, which as singers, let's face it, we're not always focused on that. We're really focused on sight reading, and we're really focused on all of the things that it takes to learn a song with words and acting and actions and all of that stuff. So I hope that this resource is able to fulfill a need. And if anybody has any questions, of course, you can always reach out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Jocelyn.
Participating.
That was fun.
That was a dotted quarter note instead of a dotted half note, and maybe we need to think about rhythm in a little different way, or like we need to work on that section or whatever, versus just making something up in your head and being like, now what was that rhythm? Like, what did I do?
I could never make up all of these things. And then so you teach them on musicology when you're doing these, and you can hear them. Do you play with them sometimes while they're singing them back to you?
Yeah, sometimes if they are unsure about where they are, yes, absolutely, I will go ahead and do that, and I will, shore them up a little bit. But I mean, these things, like I said, I think that RCM in general has, a very good curriculum, and obviously here in Canada, this is something that we use relatively frequently. And I mean, you can sort of adapt the 4-star. I mean, there are elements of it, sure, but it's not for singers. So this is for singers.
Well, that's amazing. I can't believe you did that. Good for you.
Well, again, it's out of my own, I think we're always our own best client. Like, we're our first clients anyway, right? And so I created something that I needed, and it was a total shock to me that other teachers might need it as well. And then people were like, yes, can I buy it? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And then to try to make it, like look pretty and be useful and like, have utility is a whole other thing. I think I've become also like a pseudo graphic designer during this pandemic, which is
an
app. No, see, that's the thing. No, I don't want to do that. I will happily leave that to you, and I will use your app.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yes. Well,
I'm just going to look at the chat here quick before we sign off. Is it possible to turn off the background music? Oh, okay. So that was probably for the video I just showed. He likes my background music.
It's okay. I know why you put it in there, but yeah.
I watch too many TikTok videos, I think. So there's always background music and everything. But I will repost this example of Jocelyn's work without the background music.
Okay.
And let's see, do you have any microphone recommendations for child students that sound good for students to buy?
Well, to be honest, I don't always feel, especially for the kids. Yeah, Norma, like the Snowball or the Yeti, the blue Yeti. If you want the kids to have them, I find that the inputs on most of my kids are doing it on iPads. And so it's hard for them to put peripherals into the iPad. And with the children's voices, I don't find they need them. Like the audio is honestly good enough without those super highs and lows of like operatic singing or belting, where there's a lot of volume or a lot of overtones or a lot of like range. I find the kids are more than fine on just the app itself. They don't need the peripherals. And so I don't even worry about it. And it's a big selling feature for me as well with my families to be like, literally download the app. Here's their code. The way I do the codes is I just say it's their initials plus RC for room code. So it's
That's
like,
a good idea.
So like Rebecca would be RFRC. And that's always their code, and it never changes. So the kids can come in all on their own. And I even with my operatic students, they don't use the mics. Like I honestly,
and the
honestly
iPad has
don't
like
need
really, the iPad does have a pretty good microphone as well, and a pretty good audio. And the audio code of musicology, with the iPad in particular, is completely unique. Like it's actually, it's in like research and development with like being sent off places for other people to explore, because it's actually never been used before. So it's quite exceptional.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that you'll notice right away if you guys start using musicology is like on Zoom, where Rebecca and I, like if one of us starts to talk while the other one is talking, the sound cuts out, right? So in musicology, you'll notice that you can actually have a conversation. It's like being, like as she said at the beginning, it's like being on the phone. Yes. So I can give my student, if they're moving in the wrong direction, or we have a wrong note, or we have, you know, something going wrong with the piece, or like we need to correct or whatever, then I can correct them as they're going, and they can hear me and adjust just like they would in a live lesson. And that, I mean, it's great to be able to play with them, but that talking when we're actually able to talk to one another is just so lovely. It's really normal. It makes it really feel normal, which is great.
So we don't have a record feature. Melissa was just asking if you can record lessons. We don't have a record feature built in, but you can screen record on any platform actually. So on, if you're in an Apple device, you can press Shift Command 5, and then you can do a screen recording and send it to them. And if you're on a Windows, you press the Windows logo and G, I believe. We actually look on our blog. I'm not a Windows user. Yeah, we have, let me throw the link of the blog in actually for you, because I just did one on a screen recording.
Yeah, and I actually used that at Christmas time. I had one of my little ones who wrote his own version of the 12 Days of Christmas. And so I actually screen recorded him in musicology doing it, and I shared it as a video on my Instagram. So you can absolutely, it was adorable. He came up with this whole like thing on the fly, and it was adorable. So you can absolutely use it and then save it, and then you can send it or download it as you like. So it's a good workaround.
We will build a screen recording button down at a later date, and then maybe future release, as well as chat, and just a little upgrade on the screen share with some remote control. It was a massive thing to produce this app, and it was like a year to build it. So with all the collaborative features, we kind of focused on that and the great audio, and then we'll start adding in some extra things later on.
Amazing. So somebody, I think Melissa asked, can you connect an iPhone as a second camera like you can with Zoom? That's your wheelhouse, Rebecca.
Yeah. So no, because, well, you can if you use a certain app, but the thing is that will add additional latency as well when you add in, if you're on a group platform and you add in as an extra participant, you're adding in more latency there. So what you want to do is just buy a cheap webcam, and you can hook up as many webcams as you want. And it's more ideal to use that because you will have the lowest latency. And speaking of latency too, I just wanted to add that the Snowball, I believe, is Bluetooth compatible. I think it's Bluetooth. Can you?
Norma's shaking her head. Yes, no, it's a USB mic.
You can plug it in by USB. Okay, yeah. That's good. That's good. Maybe there was like an older model or something, or maybe you have the option to do Bluetooth, but that's something that you want to avoid when you're teaching online too, is a ton of Bluetooth, because the Bluetooth adds latency as well. So when you're teaching music online, you want the lowest latency possible. So you want to wire into things. Like it is Bluetooth compatible on the web app if you do want to use that and you don't care about latency, but it will increase it to just a little bit.
Yeah, I have a lot of kids that want to use like their AirPods. Yeah. And I always say, just take them out. I mean, you don't need them.
Yeah.
We don't need them. So, and I responded to Lynn as well, because she had said that, you know, parents were asking about microphones. And I sort of said that's like a hangover from the Zoom era, because
Right.
that's what everybody needed, right? Like we were all sending out all of these emails to our parents about like, everybody needs peripherals. We have to have mics. You have to do this to like optimize, and, trying to walk people through the audio settings and doing all of this stuff. Yes, it was like, oh my gosh. So, now to be able to say like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to click on a link. You literally just go here and put your room code in. It's been incredibly, there are just so many things about this that are more accessible, and for me anyway, more ideal.
Well, it's like I said at the beginning, like my students can't even remember to bring a pencil to class. Like telling them to bring microphones and adapters and all sorts of things. Yeah.
Well, and for an entire year, that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
Like they got used to it, because we all get used to things. And the thing that kills me is that it still wasn't great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what it was. And I'm super proud of our entire community that we all like stepped up and we were able to keep working and bringing music to the people who need music. And I know, God, now
we're not Zoom haters either. We're on Zoom.
No, we're on Zoom right now. And I use Zoom as a backup. I use Zoom for my group classes. I use Zoom for all of those kinds of things. But for me, what kills me is when I hear, because there's still discourse. There's discourse all over the place as we move into like year 857 of this pandemic. We're all like, are you back in person? Are we online? Blah, 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 blah. Because for singing, it's a big thing, with the droplets and the aerosolization and, all of the debate about vaccination and all of these things, which are totally valid. And they're all concerns that we have. But I know of teachers who have just opted out of teaching because they can't be in person, and they hate the online experience.
Yeah.
Which is why I always try to jump in and be like, there are other platforms now. Like you could try it again, and you could still work and like still connect with your people. Yeah. But it's really hard. And I acknowledge that and I understand it. But I mean, even for myself, I suddenly came to this realization that was like, I could actually be online quite happily forever. Like I'm very happy. Like my commute is amazing. My dog is living his best life. I have like my space set up. I don't have overhead. I mean, besides, paying for your housing, but like, I don't have any of those things. I don't have to commute, travel, anything. And the quality of the experience is a really high on both ends.
And we're always here to like support as well. So
yes,
that's another
Rebecca is very, you're so responsive, Rebecca. Like you respond to questions in the Facebook group, like all the time with like tips and the blogs and all of those things. So I would just say like, if there's a 30-day trial, I know I sound like I work for you. I swear I do not.
She doesn't.
I don't, I really don't. But I will say that 30-day trial, do it with like a couple of your students and be like, hey, we're going to try musicology for like a couple of weeks and see how it goes. And honestly, it's a huge difference. So